Yes, it's good to be back again on this conversation. Now, today we are three, and as a matter of fact, we are going to discuss something very interesting. We are going to merge art and politics, the impact of art on politics, and impact of politics on art. Now, we have a poet in the house. We are going to delve straight into a particular book that encompasses both the art and the politics. Now, first of them is Professor Krydz. Good to be here again with you, Prof.
Thank you again.
And Jeff, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, so where are we going to start from? This arts and politics and art. How are we going to do this thing? Because considering this book, this poetry, this project of art, looking us in the face, how can we encompass these two separate existence, politics and art, with this book?
I think we need to recognize that. When you say two separate, I don't see them as separate. Somebody says politics is the continuation of war by other means, or war is the continuation of politics by other means. I think also there is a way that art becomes the continuation of politics, probably in a more sublime way. And personally, I teach art and politics at the PhD level. And what we try to do is to see, like you said, how art has impacted politics and how politics has impacted art. And if you take man as an entity, I usually talk about homo politicus. Man is homo politicus, homo religiosus. Somebody talks about there's a lady I mentioned in one of our other conversations, Ellen Disanake, who has a book on homo aestheticus. So you see, man is so many things in different ways, and you cannot take away, man as aesthetic animal, man as a political animal, or man as a religious animal is still the same man you are talking about. So you find out that because of the multifaceted nature of man, and because of therefore the multifaceted nature of the artist, he can draw from different parts of his psychological reserve on the unconscious to be able to create concrete images, and which can generate very interesting imageries that we now enjoy in a kind of aesthetic exchange, which is what art is all about. So this is what probably gave rise to the book we have, he has in his hand. We are co-editors, himself, myself, and another young man who lives in Lagos, who studied pharmacy here at some point, went to Benin, and then went to Lagos to study literary arts in English particularly. Ifi Mwajehu. So the three of us put this together. But probably before Jeff talks more about the book, maybe I should talk about the motivation. How did this book come about? In 2015, this is a project that started around 2015 or 2016, because we felt that we should do this for the late Professor Ben Obumselo. Ben Obumselo is Achebe's, or was Achebe's classmate, Shoyinka's classmate, Christopher Kibo's classmate, all at Ibadan, where they all studied at the same time. So, but he went into literary criticism and actually held the biscuit in that area for as long as he lived. He died in 2017 while the compilation of this book was still in progress. He was a Nigerian statesman, if we define, depending on how you define statesman. Here in this part of the world, it's only politicians that are described as statesmen, which we are not a politician.
Nigeria.
You don't get certain awards. You don't. You are not mentioned as a statesman. But if you go to some other countries, you see heads of artists on stamps. You take up a postage stamp, you see somebody, he has been an activist, a culture activist, he has been that, they put him on stamp. So people like Obumsel deserve more. Even in Biafra, whether you want to talk about Biafra or not, Obumsel was a very prominent figure in Biafra. When you talk about Ahira declaration, he was very instrumental to it. He worked very closely with Ojukwu, taught in Zambia, then University of Lagos. If you read some of his writings, you see what it is to be, a true literary critic. So we felt we should do this, and this idea also arose from a party that was organized for him in 2014 by Ohaneze Ndigbo at Zodiac Hotel. And yes, Zodiac Hotel in Enugu. When we gathered there, I brought in some of my friends and students for us to put up an exhibition for him. That exhibition, it was during that exhibition that a number of things about him came up. And I said to one or two people, even to him, Prof, why are we here to eat rice? I think we should do more than rice. I think you deserve to be celebrated in a better way for what you have done for Nigeria academically, what you have done for Biafra politically, academically. And that was how we now said this book will be compiled, and we started calling for poetry, for art. So it's a conjunction of visual and literary art, so to say, and that is what we have today. And hopefully in the next few days, it will be able to be accessed by readers and everybody from any part of the world. So that's just the background, how we came to what we have as this anthology.
Now, you've talked about the inspiration behind the book. Well, I personally didn't know this great man, but me and the other viewers who, research on him, because we didn't know he was there. Like you said, there was no head in any work like this is this man, or something like that. But it's good, and I appreciate the three of you for coming up with this particular book, Swipes and Strictures. So Jeff, what do you have to say about this particular book as one of the editors?
Okay, the book before us here is Swipes and Strictures, an anthology of poems and arts on Nigeria's governance in honor of Ben Obunselu. The book is edited by Krydz, Ikwemesi, myself, Jeff Ibu, and Ifeanyi Mojeku. The book here comprises of different works of art from literary artists, just as Prof has said, and visual artists. We have not less than 35 poets that are featured in this book, and more artists too that are featured in this book. But there is something that is peculiar about the works that are featured here. All the writers featured here try to depict Nigeria and the terrible situations we find in Nigeria from different perspectives in terms of the governance, the marginalization, the tribalism, so many things happening around the country. So the book here is a great book. It's a gathering of socially committed voices. Call it socially committed voices that sing to portray the situation of things that are happening in this country, Nigeria. Both the poets and the artists are all working towards the same thing, bringing out the image of things in Nigeria. Why? For the purpose of what? Correction. You know, the work of art in the society, one of the works of art or the purposes of art in the society is the correctiveness of social ills, the ability of art to correct societal issues. And that is why the writers here have brought in their poems into this anthology, so that those who are in the society will pick it. The change has to start from us. It has to start from everyone. It has to get to the politicians. And we believe that with the things that are written here, if everyone puts up their heads together, we can achieve change and bring up a greater society. Thank you.
So, Jeff,
Yes.
in this book, what exactly are the themes and the messages conveyed through this particular work?
Okay, the writers here try to depict so many things in the work of art. You know, a work of art is like a river where you go and then you scoop the one that will be useful to you. Now, some of the themes that are depicted here, like issues revolving around critique of the society, themes of leadership, themes of corruption, theme of identity, and so on and so forth. So many of these things. Now we have a poem to read here, like that of Obari Gumba, as the first poem that is in this anthology. A poem by Obari Gumba, The Feast of Old Dragons. That's the title, The Feast of Old Dragons. Old dragons have broken the river gates. Old dragons roar as they ravage the river. New tears fall where old ones never run dry. New lessons where old wounds are running stories. New deaths where old corpses clog the river. Old dragons have broken the river gate. We must go to the root of the river, for our birds' calls are anchored at the riverbed. Where destinies are woven in the great loom, we must go in search of strong slave lineage. That is the poem. And this poem talks about the situation of things in the country, the killings of people, and the negligence of the governance or the government in terms of these things that are happening in the country. And this is just the direct replica of what is happening in our society. People are dying, and it's as if the government do not care.
So, I wonder who the old dragons are, because if you hear old dragons, I'm thinking of some people that they don't want to mention their name, but I like the way poem used to like speak volume, but people might not really understand, you get. So, do we have another poem that you might want to give us?
Okay, another poem here. Let's look at this poem titled Grief Party. Grief Party by Jide Badmus. It says, "Bespectacled ghosts haunts our dreams, and we are driven down nostalgic death lanes. Now we mythologize eastwide nightmares. Gap-toothed demon somehow becomes a knight in white agbada. Here, happiness is fertile. We strive with policies bent on killing our future. 'Tis a perpetual grief party. We pride in who has suffered more. We crave something stronger than laughter, something real, deeper than these ripples of smiles, something that can't be taken away from us. So we pop sighs and drink tears. We smoke hope, pass it round like marijuana, and feel good for a minute. We get high on our own facts." So this is a titled Grief Party, still on the same issue of Nigerian leadership and how the people love suffering and smiling. Suffering, the case of suffering and smiling. We are suffering, Nigerians are suffering actually, but who wants to make a change? Everybody is just negligence of what is happening, and then the government continues to thrive in making the people suffer more. So
Yeah, I understand what you're saying,
yes.
but Prof, don't you think when Jeff says the government is making the people to suffer, are we not part of the I think the government is for the people, by the people, and there is a way it is being said.
Yes.
Are we not part of the government?
Well, the thing is that things have gone terribly bad, and everybody has thrown in the towel. But I don't think it's a very wide line that actually divides or separates the oppressors in Nigeria from the oppressed. Anybody can be at any side at any time, depending on where you find yourself. Because when we talk about government at times it's just a blame game. For a society to function, for a system to function, both the leaders and the led will have to, meet themselves in the middle of the road so that things can happen. But you may say, well, the leaders should take the lead, shine the light so that the led can follow. Yes, but I think we have a situation where everything is decentralized. That's why I say, what do you call democracy in Nigeria? Is a decentralization of corruption, decentralization of violence. Everything, both positive and negative. So more people have access to corruption. When it was a military regime, maybe you have the governor, there was no assembly. So less people were, in this thing. Less people were killed, had the means to kill. Now, many more people can kill. So it's not a government in that sense of us and them. For me, it's everybody. Everybody have sinned. If we want to follow the simple prayer book, that everybody have sinned and come short of the glory of the nation now, probably not of not of God. So it's everything. We recognize that government is vampirized. Politics is vampirized. You have blood-sucking system where the populace or the masses tend to be the victim, but when you go deeper, you see that they are not really. They are contributing to their own victimhood, so to say, by being complicit in some of the things happening. How do you explain a situation where somebody is put in a position and he makes away with 100 billion? That is not government. Or you put somebody in charge of students, and you become the goat that eats the yam that is, entrusted to eat. You take students to hotel, do all sorts of things. That is not government now. You are charged with, let us say, there's a service you are offering, and people are being shortchanged. You are not doing what you should do. Or if you are sitting in an office, you are supposed to move this thing to somewhere to benefit one or two people. But you don't do it until they come and say, take this money. That you are contributing to the rot. But we are always comfortable to call government. Anything that happens, government. Anything that happens, this, that. So it's a terrible system that we find ourselves in, and it tends to be very totalizing, because anywhere, even in the churches, even in religion, that's why you hear today of pastors raping church members, pastors making away with church funds and you never see them. Or the other day you see somebody has buried people in the foundation of his church to be able to, I mean, he has done a ritual that will enable him to attract more people, and you sacrifice human beings. This is not government. So
yes.
the experience of corruption and bad governance, if you must talk about it, is something that it's a dialectical two-way thing that flows from both the people who are leading and the people who are to be led. And you can say we have more dealers than leaders again. People who are actually dealing with society instead of leading it. And that is why you have some of these. So that is part of what we have tried to. I come from the Nsukka School of Art, which is tied to the University of Nigeria, the art department at the University of Nigeria. And we have been known to be very critical over the years, starting from the time of Uche Okeke, Obiora Udechukwu, down to this time when some of us who were students then are now teachers. And we have always seen a connection between art and politics. Most of us over the years have used our art as social commentary, so that we are not creating art for art's sake, but art that tends to speak to society, art that is socially committed, as he put it. So what you find here is not art for art's sake, which Achebe says is nothing but a deodorized piece of dog shit. What you find here is art that has social relevance, from the poetry down to the visual arts.
Now, talking about social relevance, we have some musicians like you said, suffering and smiling. We have some musicians like Fela Kuti, Femi Kuti. We have Lagbaja. We have some of Lucky Dube, Bob Marley, and the Wailers. They say things in Africa with music. Poem in particular, how can it influence the governance and the societal change? Like saying what is going on in the nation. Prof said it's not just the government. He made instances with churches, even other parastatals. There are things happening, even in our families. Corruption is everywhere. So how can we use poem to enhance a better society?
Okay, just as we said, the poets are socially committed writers, and just as Prof has just mentioned about art for life sake, there is something we call art for art and art for what? For life. Art for life, in the sense that the writers try to depict the realities of the society, to make the people to be conscious of things that are happening around them. Therefore, they serve as social crusaders. These artists serve as social crusaders. The society influences art, and the art also influences the society. How? How does the society influence art? The writers themselves are members of the world, of this society. So they look at the things that are happening around them, and they are not happy with the things that are happening around them, obviously. What do? They depict these things, shine light towards them, so that the people can read the things that are happening around them, and then also in one way or the other put in words as corrective measures to some of these things that are happening. And that is what most of the poets in this work have done. They critique the society, they critique the corruption, critique the bad leadership, and then project what is the ideal thing that should be done in the society. Tell the people their responsibility, and also tell the government their own responsibility, so that we can have a better society. And that is what Art for Life's Sake does, with the artists serving as social crusaders.
I personally think government officials, they don't read poems.
Somebody said that a totalitarian government do not like dictionaries, because they can't afford to have things properly defined. It's not just about dictionaries. They don't like books. So of course it will not get to change them, but like he said, drawing attention to what is and also what ought to be. I think that is what we are doing.
Yes.
No artist or writer ever really changes society. At times it becomes a point of argument. What can this work of art do? Art is not quantum physics that it will help us to create this or create that. But drawing attention to those things may lead to, a change. But going out as an, I don't go to my to my studio as an artist armed with a gun that today I'm going to change somebody. No, but you may do things that it may come into the public sphere, because a work of art is basically a basis for dialogue between the artist and the society. That dialogue may now lead to something that may affect society in a positive way.
I like how poem used to like indirectly talk to people, because in the music they used to call names, and those songs will end up being banned. Like you can't play it anywhere. For talking about poem, it's a nice one. The book we are reviewing today. It's also nice that I didn't know. I thought maybe why poem is being written is to like say this and there will be a change. I was going to ask, why is it that since we've been writing poems, nothing has changed? But Prof, I think he has addressed it, that there is no motive of stopping it, but to bring people to the consciousness of what is going on.
Sure.
So, Jeff, I would want to ask, this particular book we are reviewing now, when can people like have access to it? When is it going to be published?
Okay, the book officially, we are looking at October next month. The book will be out by October
2025.
Although, yes, 2025 this year. An official announcement will be made on that, stating the specific date of its release and the public presentation of the book. But as it is now, the pre-order is on already, so some persons can always pre-order. Whoever is interested in getting a copy can contact one of the editors for the copy.
Let me also add that it is published by the Pan Africa Press in Enugu, and also beyond the physical copies, the hard copies, we will create access to soft copies, and the Pan Africa Press also plans a book party maybe in the next 1 month, where this is going to be one of the star books that will be celebrated at the party. So it will provide a platform to further create further awareness for it and for any other books that may be featured in that party.
Okay, that's it on today's episode. We talked about swipes and scriptures, and it's been Jeff, Prof, and myself today. Don't forget, the book is going to be published on October 2025, depending on when you're going to watch this video. Make sure you keep reading poems and make sure you keep being informed on what's going on. Thanks for watching.